And now we're excited to host today's presentation in partnership with the UH College of Engineering and the UH Esports program. If Sky would like to take this time to say a few words about the UH Esports program.
For sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Sky Kavaloa, Director of the UH Esports program. I'm very happy to be working with PACE and the College of Engineering to provide this unique opportunity to get students to understand what the video game industry is like, and also to, in particular, understand the roles and opportunities and work environments of Activision Blizzard itself. At UH, we actually have a very special relationship with Activision Blizzard. We were able to host the Overwatch League for 2021 and 2022 during the summer on our Manoa campus. And so with that, our UH Esports program is really excited to be able to be a conduit in fomenting, encouraging, and supporting interest in the larger video games and esports industry. Thank you, everybody.
We're pleased to deliver this session over Zoom. Feel free to use the chat function to comment and ask questions at any time during this presentation. This event is being recorded and will be posted on PACE's YouTube channel for everyone's viewing pleasure. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by 4 seasoned professionals from Activision Blizzard. You can read more about each of our panelists on the Eventbrite page for this event. I'm excited to learn more about each of you and see what they see for the future of the gaming and esports industry. First, we have Madison Edgar, a gaming and esports expert with over 14 years of experience in the industry. Next, we have Vivian Enos, a talent officer at Activision who received her BA in English from UH Manoa. We have E.G. Hornbostel, a lead software engineer with over 15 years of experience building scalable services, and Adrian Ledda, the head of inclusive game design at Activision Blizzard. So let's start by having each panelist introduce themselves, and if you can briefly share with us what you do at Activision Blizzard.
I'll start off because I think I was at the top, if you want. So I'm Madison Edgar. I am from Hawaii. I went to Kamehameha at the Kapalama campus, and once it was time for college, I moved to the mainland. I came here to California. I went to college here, and once I was here, I was really excited about like the city and the energy, so I stayed here. And I still go back home probably like 3 to 4 times a year. My twin sister still lives on Oahu. My mom lives on Kauai. And yeah, I do our events for the esports leagues. So we have the Call of Duty League and the Overwatch League. So I know Sky very, very well. I love the program that you have there at UH. Congratulations on your award. And yeah, I love doing these events with everyone. So I am now, I hope I'm a part of your community, and I hope that all of you, after learning more about our company, if you ever want to reach out, I'm always here to help anyone.
I'm happy to go next because I have to point this out. You're from Hawaii when you start off with what high school you went to. So that's when you're from Hawaii, right? So St. Andrews Prairie grad, went to UH Manoa. So I gotta give the high school recommendation there. And so as they mentioned, I do have a bachelor's in English, and then found my way through marketing, recruitment, and now I lead all of our Activision recruitment teams for our 12 studios and our publishing brand. We have a dispersed workforce globally, recruiting across all of our locations within APAC, EMEA, all through North America and in Mexico. So very excited to be here. I'm really passionate about talking to the University of Hawaii and folks from the islands, and so great to see all of our colleagues on this call too. So I'm going to popcorn this over to E.G.
Yeah, I'm E.G. and basically what I do at Activision Blizzard is I work as a lead for the server platform team for an up-and-coming game that we've got called Warcraft Arclight Rumble. So my job is basically to make sure that we build a solid software foundation that would allow us to run a game that will support all of our players and allow them to have fun.
And hello, I am Adrian Ledda. My pronouns are he, him. I am the head of inclusive game design at Activision Blizzard, where our mission is to ensure that our gaming experiences, our content, our characters, our narratives, environments, expressions, all of that are as inclusive as possible. That includes representation as well as accessibility and our online community. I've been working at Activision for the past 14 years, and my formal background is in programming and art. Now working with inclusive game design, I function and report to the diversity, equity, and inclusion team. And it's my pleasure to be able to collaborate with all of our different game teams and their contents to see where they'd like to go, where can they explore to make their games more inclusive, and what are some ways that they can kind of express that and interpret that in ways that are innovative and exciting. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I'm just so excited.
Thank you, everyone. So I'll now be starting with my questions, and rather than directing my questions to each of you individually, if the question resonates with you, please feel free to jump in and answer, and you can all answer if you like, it's not restricted. So for those who aren't familiar, could you give a brief description of Activision's involvement in the esports industry?
I'll start here. So I am directly involved with the esports program, I guess, with Activision Blizzard. We have the Call of Duty League, like I mentioned, and Overwatch League. Those are the ones that I handle hands-on. Like those are my events, all of those events for both leagues. We are doing huge things. I think the other thing that you may have seen is that Overwatch World Cup is here, so we will add that to our events calendar. But you know, just seeing the crowds and the fans and the professional players and the amateurs, we're doing a great job with the esports. We're putting a lot of effort into it. We're always looking to better the game, better the competition. And from what I've seen, it is growing. So I don't pay attention as much to other esports, but our own esports, we're doing really, really well. And I'm excited for like everyone to see what's to come.
All right, so did you always know that you wanted to work in the gaming industry?
I always wanted to work in either like sports or something similar because I like competition. I'm very, very competitive, and it's probably because I'm a twin. But Call of Duty has always been my favorite game because I used to spend like 3 to 5 hours every night playing with my sister online. So it's like a game very close to my heart. So when I got the call from my recruiter to work on events for Call of Duty and Overwatch League, I was like, whoa, my dream job. So nailed it. I think they could tell how excited I was. And now that I'm doing it, it's kind of crazy because it's one of those things when you're from Hawaii, you don't really think about working like a company like Activision Blizzard. So making it here and then finding other people who are from Hawaii, you're like, yeah, but it's like, it's one of those things that's very exciting when you think of it. But now that like Vivian and I are here, it's so possible. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here. And we'll get into it later, is that it's so possible for all of you to work for Activision Blizzard if you wanted to. And yeah, we can talk about it later, and we can talk about it later on this presentation, but it's once the opportunity presented itself, it was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. Honestly, I've, ever since I graduated high school, or even before then, to be honest, I've always wanted to be able to get into gaming and writing my own games. And, my life took a long detour around that before I finally, joined Activision Blizzard and actually did what I really wanted to do. So, even if it doesn't, even if you don't manage to start it, you can eventually get there, at least in my experience.
Okay, so I'm going to have to jump in on this one because I took a very not just traditional path of getting here. So I mentioned I have a degree in English. I didn't tell you what it was focused on. I did children's literature. That's what I did as my English degree. And I also have a minor in theater. So I'll share a little bit of my story. When I was in high school, I actually thought about doing computer science, but at that time, there wasn't a lot of exposure to it at my school and at my level there. And so I wasn't quite as familiar with what are the different opportunities that would be available to me in a computer science degree. And so I kind of talked myself out of it and pursued English in college in the theater. And it's always been stuck in my head that I wanted to be a part of the tech industry. It was something that I was really passionate about. I was really interested in. So like EG, I took sort of like the long road to get there through marketing, through recruitment, but I was very persistent about adding additional skills to my experience to get me closer to where my path was going to take me. And it landed me here in 2021. And I've been just so excited about being here ever since.
I love hearing people's interests and how they got into the industry, or what was the journey for that. For me in particular, I've always wanted to do it because I grew up watching my mom play video games, and I personally also played video games. So it was just great to be curious to see how the other side makes it. What is the possibility here? Who creates and designs these and makes all the art? And it was just something I'd always wanted to do. Things were different when I was in college, and I'm like, hey mom, I want to do video games. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, this doesn't seem like a serious career. Are you sure about that? It felt non-traditional, particularly for my parents who were from the Philippines and immigrated to the US. And this seemed like, in many ways, like a wasted opportunity. And I understand that. It was untested or unfounded or a little bit difficult to explain the kind of technical, creative production craft that goes into gaming. And I felt that way even from my professors in university, where they thought like, oh, that's a hobby, not a career. Are you sure about that? So the doubt about it was all over. But it took a lot of, faith and patience to kind of reason around. There's so much in the gaming industry that maybe isn't quite well understood as other disciplines, but as a craft, as a creative and cultural force, it's unmatched and unparalleled in so many different ways. So the opportunity to kind of work in the gaming industry was not as well understood as it is today, where there are amazing programs beyond just gaming today. And to see that develop is just so positive. So I'm really glad that there's continuing evolution into what is the gaming industry. Who feels like they can be included? What kind of disciplines are available and professional roles can be formed there or even innovated on? So it's nice to tell my mom that I have a real job because it's always been real. But it's just an absolute joy to be here.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the problems I hear from students that are interested in the gaming industry is that their parents don't understand it, or they don't support it because they think it's just a hobby. So I'm glad to hear that it went well for you. So who are Activision Blizzard's competitors?
I can field this one. So when we think about gaming as a whole, it's kind of easy to see like, yep, you can go on to any store, brick and mortar or online and what have you, and see that there's so many different titles out there, so many different kinds of games and genres, so many different kind of publishers or approaches to what a game is, or even like interpretations of gaming and different experiences. So in this space, there's so many different kinds of expressions of gaming or like technological, artistic media or mediums of how gaming is expressed. So as an industry, video games might seem like kind of unique. They're on an island and they have their space and they have gamers in that audience. But the reality is that the statistics from the Entertainment Software Association is that over 60 to 70% of adults and kids play video games weekly. So gaming is so much overlapped with different kinds of experiences and is creating this kind of impact that is beyond just like sitting down in a dark room and playing World of Warcraft. It's beyond that. So the industries that are tangential or even just like parallel to gaming can involve technology, can involve media, film, can involve production and programmatic excellence and efficiency. So it's a broad space of different kind of disciplines, and gaming as a whole, even with Activision Blizzard, it's pretty nuanced. So it's a little difficult to answer that one, but without a doubt, it's kind of a interconnected space, as is our discipline, kind of demands different kind of interconnection and collaborative disciplines.
So what do you believe is Activision Blizzard's competitive advantage?
I can share a quick story about this one because it is related to like the previous question. In 2019, before the times of the pandemic, Activision Blizzard participated in the first ever Los Angeles Pride Parade. And in it, we had a bus with like a big TV on the side of it. It was a double-decker bus. And part of it had characters across our different franchises. At the time, it was Spyro the Dragon, Candy Crush, and Overwatch. And we were having all these beautiful rainbow inclusive graphics, and people were throwing out rainbow beads and all that. When Tracer would come up on the screen, and Tracer, who at the launch of the game, it was not known that she had a same-sex partner. Many people at that time, now, during that Pride Parade, knew Tracer to have a same-sex partner, and people were pointing like, I know Tracer, she's like been my inspiration in this, and like to see that kind of impact was absolutely amazing. So what makes Activision Blizzard unique is these kind of lasting impacts of culturally influential characters, experiences, and how it can bring people together and understand themselves and other people through gaming, which is unusual and unheard of, right? Tracer isn't a real person, but to many people, the impacts of the connections that they have with that universe or that character, or even just like their investment into learning more about Tracer's story or her relationships or any of that, it goes beyond just like a virtual avatar that I think people feel real connection to. And that is so unique and like a really trusted space for us as creators in gaming to be able to contribute to that. That's what I think is what makes Activision Blizzard unique. Like you can walk into a store and like wear a Call of Duty shirt and someone will be like, I love that game. Do you play Call of Duty? And I'll tell them no, because I don't want to play because I'm terrible at it. But like just to see like that impact and recognition and how people connect with it, it's hard to describe, but important to feel.
Does anyone else want to jump in on that?
We can't beat Adrian's stories. I'm sorry.
That was really great. Thank you. Yeah, I definitely think that just the ability for people to bring a story to life and create this 3D world and just be able to experience all of that creativity is really amazing. I definitely enjoy games that have like a lot of lore behind it and just reading all about it and like all of the art. I really love looking at the concept art for stuff.
Okay, I will throw it out there and add in on Adrian's comment here. So what stands out to me is just the deep-rooted connection. So you kind of described it a little bit, Isha, in terms of like what brings you into gaming. There's really deep-rooted connections to our player base, and also from a talent perspective, a lot of our candidates come in with like this very strong background with some of our games. The amount of folks I know that found their partners through World of Warcraft is like impressive. Like I think they've beat out a lot of those like matchmaking apps at this point because of the partners that they found through World of Warcraft. And there's that connection because you either see yourself within the games, you identify with some of our characters, or it's an opportunity for you to really be able to explore different worlds and spaces. And I think that's just what makes us, and Adrian has described much more eloquently than I did, so unique.
I need to add one more, and it's definitely not better than either of you, but at Major 2 in Dallas or Arlington, this is for Call of Duty League. We even had a couple get engaged on Championship Sunday right before the match, and it was so cool. So I actually have a colleague who met his wife at another like gaming event. So whether it's like the addiction and the strong emotion that you feel while playing or whatever it brings out of you, that like competitive nature, it is a great way for people to bond. And I mean, like, that's why I was so good at it when I played with my twin sister. Like, we're on the same wavelength, like you have that bond. So it's like we've even had people who were on their honeymoon at our like Toronto event last year. I definitely upgraded their tickets. And like, it's just one of those things, like it's more than just the game. And our competitive advantage is that we make these games that people love and they stick with. Like, look at the people who play Call of Duty, they've been doing it for over a decade. So and like Overwatch, it's so like global. And we've only just begun with that. So I think we make great games, we hire great people, and we put on great events. So it's yeah, we have a huge competitive advantage.
Good point. And also I need to point out, how many of our moms are addicted to Candy Crush too? Because we also have Candy Crush, right? As part of our suite. So my mom addicted to Candy Crush. That's the only way to explain my theater degree to my mom.
What's the culture like at Activision?
Well, for
Clearly,
me,
we like to have fun with each other.
right. So yeah, for me, this is a really cool thing because everywhere else I've worked, I've always been able to befriend a handful of people who are into geek culture. And there are people who would understand what gaming is and understanding what my Star Wars obsession is about. Understand, but ways I love or hate about Marvel or Doctor Who or things like that. But at Activision Blizzard King, it's just top down. It's hard for me to go anywhere and not find somebody who is like that and has the same love and can argue the good and bad about the stuff that we both love and we both disagree on. And right, it's awesome to be. The culture is basically all about just loving our passion about and celebrating our geekiness, I guess, at least for the people around me, and that's a lot of people.
I am laughing because every single interview that we do with candidates or conversations that we have, we all geek out. We just geek out on literally everything. And the amount of times I've shown off my Game Boy Advance that I still have with cartridges from some of you folks in Hawaii remember Toys and Joys. Yeah, I still have those. It has the price tag still on here. This one's Pokemon, by the way. Like the amount of times that we've like geeked out about this stuff, whether it's in our candidate interviews, in our Zoom meetings, most of us are part of the API employee network within the organization. We have tea times every Tuesday or every other Tuesday. We talk about food, we talk about games, we talk about all the things that we love. And it allows for us to connect in a way that's outside of like your just day-to-day work, right? We still do our day-to-day work. We deliver on great games. We deliver on great results. We have a way to still connect with one another that's so much more than that. So that's sort of my share, and also wanted to show off my games.
I love talking about this. So it's one of those things, we work a lot. We are very, very, very hard workers. So it's not all play. Even though you can play games, but it is, I've had 80-hour work weeks. Sky was there. He helped me. He probably made it like a 70-hour work week at one of our events, but I travel a lot since I'm at all of these events. I think I did 10 trips last year. So that already helps grow as a family. But even if we weren't traveling all the time and like forced to hang out with each other, we get together regularly. And I'm a mom, so I have very limited time, and I choose to spend time with my colleagues. I don't know like many places where that's the thing you want to do with your spare time. Like I used to travel the world with my spare time. Now I'm getting like Mexican with my colleague that I see on Zoom all day long. But it's also a very impressive group of people. It's funny, if you look up your colleagues on LinkedIn, you're like, oh, we're stacked. And that's cool. You just feel like you're part of this like powerful like army of people where everyone's just done all of these incredible things and you all just came together, and you have like all these brilliant minds and all these like different types of people, but it's very much like a family. Again, we do work hard. I'd say the other cool thing about working for Activision Blizzard, because I didn't always work for a bigger company, is you don't ever have to like really explain your resume or like the company you work for as much. Like, sorry, they always used to be like, what's IFBB Pro League? I used to work in like bodybuilding. No one knew what anything was. And now I say Activision Blizzard, and it's like, whoa, you work there. So that's like one of the small cool things about working here is you get that like cool company name and people like respect it. So it's fun, it's exciting, it's fast paced, it is hard work, but it's very rewarding.
I think Adrian talked a little bit about this earlier, but what does Activision Blizzard do to promote diversity and inclusion within the company and game?
Yeah, you're gonna need to stop me from talking as I keep going on this topic in particular. But so I work within the diversity, equity, and inclusion department that we have. And for clarity, equity is not equality; it is equity. It is a mechanism for making sure that there are equal opportunities and ensuring that there's fairness across our company policies and also things that we do in game. There's so many things that we do, and I think I'll highlight two in specific. So Vivian had mentioned that we have the Asian Pacific Islander Employee Network. This is one of 9 different employee networks that exist internally at the company where people can join these networks. They don't necessarily have to identify as a person who is in that network, ethnicity, group, or identification, but these networks are company sponsored but employee-led. So these kind of programmings, these special talks, these events, these like swag items that we get for t-shirts, they're all intended to celebrate these different kinds of employee networks and group and affiliations. The 9 that we have are, I hope I don't miss any of them, Asian Pacific Islander, Black, Differing Abilities Employee Network, Indigenous Employee Network, LGBT plus Employee Network, the SOMOS, the previously Latinx Employee Network, Southwest Asian and North African Employee Network, Veterans Employee Network, and Women's Employee Network. And all of these are meant to empower the discussion around the awareness of topics, different kinds of celebration, historical legacy or holidays at the company. And I have to admit, like, they really push the boundaries of what it means to feel included, to belong at the company, and have topics that range from so many different aspects of celebration like Pride, or even things like Lunar New Year. Most recently, we had some cultural competency classes that were hosted by some of our other networks to ensure that we have ideas on how our content creators can think more inclusively. And these employee networks, I think, have been near and dear to our hearts of ensuring that we feel welcome. We create that space of belonging internally, but also develop that so that our games, our content, our teams can also feel like they can bring, and they do, bring their whole selves to work, who they are and why they're here. And many people have different whys, but when we bring all these different perspectives, everyone becomes stronger at the how. So that's one of the aspects that we do. The other thing that I kind of want to highlight that I think people think about, but only once they're aware, has to deal with accessibility. So when you think about accessibility, often people may think of, okay, there's an accessible ramp or accessible parking or something. But accessibility has so much more to deal than that. As an example, one of the gaming industry statistics that we have is that over 95% of gamers choose to keep subtitles on. So I don't know about you, but like if I'm watching a movie or streaming something at home, I absolutely have to have subtitles because the clarity of speech, or maybe like there's a particular accent that I'm not familiar with, or it's just like I prefer reading. These all have to deal with making sure that there's access to equitable information or experiences. And accessibility doesn't just exist in subtitles or parking, but it can exist in gaming as well. So our teams have partnered with the Able Gamers charity, which is a nonprofit related to accessibility in gaming. And we've trained over 100 developers across the company to become certified in gaming accessibility. And this has helped to contribute to specific kinds of features in our games, like colorblind features that are like, we have different rendering and technological options for people to turn on different things if they have, like, for example, a red-green color blindness or partial color blindness. We have mono audio, so people who have single-sided deafness, like they can only hear from one ear, which can be common for veterans in certain kinds of injuries. We have options that allow audio to be equalized on both sides, so they get information as a stereo sound, which otherwise may not be actually physically possible. And there's even kind of things like motor controls where players can like remap buttons, and like if they're not familiar or they only have one hand with one and can only play that side of the controller, those are options that we allow players to do. And this is the heart of diversity, equity, and inclusion as it applies to games, is that everyone should feel welcome to play. Everyone should have the access to these kind of experiences and feel like they can be part of that joy. And when they start up a game, that they know that they can enjoy that excitement, the kind of thrills that goes through the game. So diversity, equity, and inclusion in terms of what we've been doing at the company have been threaded in so many different ways. It could be expressed in our gaming, in our employee networks, in the work that we do, our recruiting, marketing, and advertising. So it's just such a broad topic of where the heart of what we do is at. This is the part where I'm going to stop. I'm just going to keep going. But suffice it to say, it's a journey. There's all sorts of things that we are progressing on and are working towards doing better. For example, in the most recent Overwatch season launch, our Life Weaver, which is the character that is just new and a support character, they have a kind of diversity background. I don't want to spoil it too much, but like they have a diverse background, and also kind of an expression of their sexual orientation that is somewhat uncommon in media. And to be able to like have that as such a keystone character where so many people are excited about. This doesn't happen on accident. It doesn't happen by chance. It happens as a result of team members throughout the company wanting to express the richness of diversity in the real world in our games. So it's everywhere. This soul of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how it's expressed in our games at our company, it's everywhere.
That's great. Thank you for going into so much detail. I really enjoyed hearing that.
Thank you.
So I'm going to take a little shift now, and the questions will be more towards the business aspect of Activision. So what can a new employee expect when entering Activision?
I guess that's going to be me, right? Yeah, that's me. Everybody's giving me the look right now. Thank you, Adrian. All right, so let me dial it back a little bit further from we call it hello to hire, right? So when you get introduced to us, especially our recruiters, you probably interacted with us either on LinkedIn or through your application process or any stage in that moment, right? Hopefully, sessions like this allows us opportunities to network with you, build up your network within LinkedIn. You get a chance to connect with us on our pages or with our recruiters. And so through the interview process, we do try to keep a lens on an inclusive interview practices. So giving you an opportunity to not only learn from your recruiter, but from various parts of the business within your hiring teams, to folks that you would work with. And then at some point in time, if you do have questions about an employee network that we have, that Adrian shared earlier, we have the ability to share a little bit more about that with you as you go through your candidate experience. So we try to make this a really positive experience, very inclusive as much as possible. And then at the higher part, when you get your offer letter, you have it in hand, you're going to be excited. We, on the talent teams, we do dance parties every time we have a candidate that gets an offer. We get so excited for all of you because we know it's just a big game changer for all of you when you get your offer. It was a game changer for us. We know it's gonna be a game changer for you. So we do dance parties. We may blow up our Slacks just a little bit with some jiffies and emojis when this happens, but you know what? It's all in good fun. We're excited. Once you start with us, you go through an onboarding stage. So you get a chance to do some training with our learning and development teams. You spend time with your hiring team. and your immediate coworkers. And then you also have an opportunity to join in on the employee networks. Any network that you choose to, either if you identify with any of those networks or want to join as an ally, you're welcome to join. And then we have events throughout the year, either through the employee network or company-wide events. So I think one that I can speak to that's coming up next month is Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we're going through the planning sessions for it right now. We're very excited. Last year, my father-in-law, who is a Hawaiian musician, came and did a ukulele session for the entire company virtually with a hula demonstration. So we had a lot of fun with that. We hope to repeat some of that exposure this year. So you'll get a chance to really get involved with the company, and no matter what team you're on, you have access to all of the ABK networks, the broader company. You notice that Madison's with Esports, EG is with ArcLight Rumble, Adrian's with our D&I team, and I'm with Talent. And while our worlds are always connected with one another, we still get a chance to connect through other platforms. Did I do you all justice? Okay, good.
You get swag.
Oh, you know
That's what everyone's wondering.
you are right. I left
Yeah.
that piece out. There is swag throughout the year. And Sky, is it now a good time for me to share a little bit of a surprise? So I did obtain some swag for this group. So Sky's going to help me out and do a random selection for 2 folks, and we're going to ship some swag to you. So hopefully you'll get a chance to get your hands on some of our Activision or Blizzard swag.
Thank you. So can any of you share any challenges or failures with regard to your job and how you overcame them?
So I started the job, which I just mentioned. I travel a lot. Every trip is like 8 to 16 days. I started it as a very new mom. I was still like doing the mom stuff. So I think I was 4 months postpartum. So it wasn't a failure, but I will say I was so excited about the job that I kind of failed or didn't prioritize my family and my baby. So it's not a failure. And I have a very supportive husband, clearly. But looking back, I was like, oh my gosh, I was way too excited about work that I like did everything for work. And I was like working all the time because it was like kind of fun. And I was, again, traveling all the time. So I wouldn't say that's a failure to work. It just shows you how exciting it is. But it was a little bit of a I would reprioritize some of my time with my family. But again, it just shows you how fortunate I am to have such a supportive husband that wasn't saying like, hey, you're the mom, you're supposed to be doing this and you can't be traveling, and why'd you start a new job? Yeah, and the reason why I bring it up is that when I started to look back at the things that I was missing, I talked to HR and my manager about it, and they made huge changes. They're like, Madison, I'm so sorry that this happened, even though it was all me. I didn't communicate any of my struggles beforehand. It was in hindsight type things. And they were very, very they were great listeners. I didn't get penalized for anything. They're very supportive, and they encouraged me to be more present with my family. So that's one of the things that this year I think of our company as and you're probably with your kid right now. It's
Did you see me waving my hand?
No. They're very supportive and they listen, and they really, really listen. And it's one of those things, I don't know if I was scared to talk about it or if I was just not realizing anything in the moment, but some people don't feel like they can talk to their managers or talk to HR about things. Our company listens, and I am proof of that. And it's something that I've never really done before because I don't really complain about anything because I've been very fortunate with a very happy life. But our company, they listen and they make changes for you. So they care about you. It's not like you give your life to them and you get nothing in return. I can tell you from experience, daycare. I don't even remember what the question was, but that's where we ended up.
Madison, I love that you share that story because I'm a mom as well, right? And you know, as a working mom, sometimes you face some unique challenges in the workforce. You know, how do you continue growing and leveling up your career when you also to the world, like the stereotype is you're the primary caretaker and the provider for your children, right? But when you're very Madison, it sounds like you and I are very same. We're hyper focused on our careers. Like we get a lot of enjoyment in progressing in our careers. And so how do you balance that in sort of like your mind, and how do you balance your life and your commitments in your life as a working mom, plus also growing your career? And so I think what Madison pointed out as our company is we've done a really good job in normalizing this for our employee population. So a lot of our leaders, and I can only really speak from my own experience, but I push on my team to really be able to make those decisions for themselves on how do you want to balance your time, flex your time where you need to, because I know we all have life commitments. Some of the things that we talk about as a team is block off the time where you have to go pick up your kid. That's fine. You can go pick up your child, and we block off the time. We won't schedule calls on top of that, because that's something that you need to do. You go run out, pick them up, come back if you need to. And so I think it's important for us to be able to support one another in this space, and also acknowledge when someone just might need to step away for a little bit because there's other commitments in our lives. That work will still be there the next day. It will absolutely still be there. But we talked a little bit about this life a little bit, but I do want to hear a little bit from EG and his experience as one of our programmers on the team.
Well, it is a little hard. So, geez, well, challenges. I mean, for me, I guess it would be similar, right? One of the biggest challenges really is that, especially for a new game, a game like ArcLight Rumble, which is honestly one of the really first in-house mobile games that our Blizzard division is actually doing. There's so much expectation on getting this thing right, and there's just so much new things that we're doing that no other team has done before. And having just started the job almost a year ago today, I mean, it was, I joined beginning of March last year. There was a lot to learn. So honestly, the biggest challenge was, yes, absolutely, getting to learn all of that. And I mean, solutions, honestly, it's very similar to you guys. It's talking to people, just sitting down with people, getting all the information from them. And it's great because that Activision Blizzard King, it just feels like people are willing to work with you together to help you out and get you where you need to be. You know, I've worked in so many other places where if you just even show that little bit about yourself, they're like, I got this guy, right? But here it's just like they all want to help, and I just love it. It was definitely challenging. There was so much to learn, and just reaching out to people, just asking, hey, how does this work? What does this do? And people would just be but yeah, you know, just stop what they're doing and help me out, show me what to do, and it's so refreshing, and it's so really wonderful. And I mean, as somebody who's been in the industry for so long, it's just honestly refreshing to be at a place where people are just so willing to just be a support in as many ways as they can be.
Thank you for sharing your experiences. So, what career options are in the esports or gaming industry?
Oh, did I get hit with that one again? Okay, so as you can imagine, a lot of our work is going to be in that engineering space, right? We are constantly recruiting for engineers and developers for a lot of our games and our titles. However, I think I do also want to emphasize there are tangential roles within our organization that are not heavily engineering or programming focused. So myself, for example, I'm in sort of like that HR space and talent acquisition. I've been able to leverage a lot of my experiences in theater, in marketing and sales, and then in recruitment to continue growing my career within the organization. So really being able to identify what are you passionate about? What is the next career path for you that resonates well with you, and then exploring what opportunities may be available within either our organization or other organizations that you might be looking at. But I would say, like, as we continue to grow as a company, engineering, programming, art, and animation and design tends to be within the space and realm where we continue to grow in our talent acquisition space, but know that there are other opportunities within the organization that may not only be heavily focused in the game dev space.
Vivian, real quick, like Level Up You, that new program, is that for people like in college right now?
So Level Up You, you do not necessarily have to have a completed undergraduate degree. So it's a really great opportunity for folks who are entering into the gaming space. Last year's Level Up You program was focused on engineering. This next program might have a different focus. Unfortunately, I won't be able to share too much about it just yet, but it was a really great way for folks who came from multiple areas of their career journey and entering into the gaming industry. Folks were really passionate about it. And we saw folks who were just out of their undergraduate degree, or folks who have already been in their first or second careers and now coming into their gaming career.
I'd like to add a little bit to the career options specifically for engineering. The cool thing about what we do here at Activision is that we're not just when it comes to engineering, and somebody who's just working on the game engine isn't all we're looking for. All sorts of engineering disciplines are equally valid. I mean, the reason why I was able to, finally get the job of my dreams is because all my career I've been doing basically building these systems that deal with high user base or high data currency, right, or high data throughput. And one day I just look at the Blizzard website and I'm like, that's my job. And it's for building games. Oh my gosh. So just because you're working in an engineering field that may not feel like gaming to you, it actually very likely has an application in gaming, and don't be afraid to try it out.
Yes, thank you so much for pointing that out, because we have our core tech teams that also support the broader business as well, information security, cybersecurity, and may not necessarily be directly embedded into those games in our gaming studios. So there's multiple pathways into the organization, and at times it's the right time, right opportunity, right thing for you. And so in the talent acquisition space, what we encourage, and I think I just did a post about this too, is continually checking our career sites, because you never know when that role that it was exactly what you're doing at that moment pops up.
What are some professional positions you all see becoming more popular in the future?
Machine learning, artificial intelligence are hot topics right now. They've been growing topics for some time, particularly, especially in the tech industry, but like really blown up and shot up in trajectory with new and emerging platforms in the public space. And so I think those are going to continue to be hot topics as the tech industry evolves over time.
I'd love to add to that an example that we have, which is Blizzard has a role, last I checked, related to lead accessibility designer. And this is an idea that game development is a cross-functional, cross-discipline entity of just like so many different confluences of like required perspectives. And thinking about like an accessibility designer is such a unique kind of role, but I would say that it's not necessarily like a complete one-off, because there's this hybrid of understanding how technical and creative excellence also folds into this idea of how we can also be inclusive. So this role seems unique, but in many ways it is the unraveling and the evolution of how the gaming industry is broadening the perspective of what is qualified. What are some kind of roles that maybe traditionally have not been seen in gaming, but could be part of this tapestry of what we do as an industry. So it's exciting to see like what that'll unfold into in the future with different kinds of interpretations of what is gaming.
Oh, Vivian, do you mind providing a link to the Level Up U for anybody who's interested?
Yeah, let me grab that for you.
Thank you. How did the reduction of employees in major tech companies affect the gaming industry?
Oh, was everybody looking at me again? And I'm trying to find the link for Level Up U. I'm sorry about that. Can you repeat the question? Was it the reduction in the tech industry?
Yeah, the reduction of employees in major tech companies and how it might have affected the gaming industry.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, because you see that it happen fairly frequently in the news right now, so it's hard not to recognize that that's occurring around us. And I think where the best way that I can address it is folks who are experiencing it, who are viewing it, may have feelings of their own of like, what does that mean for them? And those feelings are very much valid. I remember starting my career during the last recession and what that felt like for me, and not knowing me newer in my career, what does that mean for me? Where am I going to go from here? What's going to happen around me? And so I think folks will have different experiences going through this, seeing this happen around us. And I think that as a company and organization ourselves, what we can focus on is how do we continue to deliver great games? How do we deliver on great experiences for our employee base? How do we continue to deliver great experiences for our candidates? And that's sort of where like we kind of center and root ourselves into.
What skills do you think students should hone now that would be helpful in their career if it pertains to the gaming industry?
Okay, so I feel like EG needs to answer this from a programming perspective. And then Adrian, I think you're going to have to tap on this too. And Madison, you'll need to share a little bit from your world in esports.
Yeah, so in terms of skills, honestly, it's less of a hard. I know these 4 languages. Really, as an engineer, what we most look for and seek in people are a passion for making these things work. These things meaning computer, mobile phone, console, website, what have you, right? It's just trying to not just take what you're reading and copy paste and do that, but like, whoa, okay, so this did this, why did that do that? Just basically just try to reason behind what you're seeing and what you're taught from the surface level is honestly the most important skill that I think that people can pick up from an engineering perspective. If somebody comes to me and says, all I know, right, is JavaScript, right? Let's say a very common language that most people know. That's okay, right? As long as you can demonstrate how curious you were with JavaScript and how much you've really dug into pieces of it and how it works and how it doesn't work. You don't even need to be perfect. You could make mistakes in some of the tests that we give. And as long as you really are able to show a passion for what you've done and what you've learned, I think that's the most important skill as an engineer.
I love that answer, EG. I'm going to share one or two personal stories about like a skill that I learned the hard way and what I thought was a very constructive way to think about this and wish I had known sooner. So one of my earlier responsibilities was I was a game designer working on the Skylanders franchise, and I worked with characters and enemies, and I was tasked with like, here's a new character. It's like a little wizard, and like it's an enemy. So it's gonna try to kill the player, try to make some attacks or design an attack that it would do. And I'm like, cool, this is great. And I was really liked Final Fantasy as a franchise. So I made like these really big flashy attacks, and like they did all sorts of like big things that took up a lot of screen space and visual effects and all that. Skylanders is a kid's game. And in some ways this didn't feel quite right. It didn't fit necessarily the genre or our audience or the art style. And I remember getting feedback from the lead designer at the time, and they're like, okay, so I see what you're trying to do. I know that you're inspired by these kinds of things. There's some things that we're trying to do within like the framework of the genre that we're doing for Skylanders. And I received that feedback, and I remember thinking, how dare you? I bet you don't play game. And just like all these defensive natures like coming is a reaction. I didn't say all those things out loud, but I was just like, ooh, I don't feel great about this. And the skill that I didn't have that I think is like one thing is to how to learn and receive information from feedback, especially ones that are challenging to us, and how we can grow from that. So I stepped back a little bit and I thought from that moment, like, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I take away as a strength? And for me, that strength was being able to iterate quickly. It was a technical strength of mine. So, okay, this idea didn't work out. And maybe I lost my way in like how I wanted to express what the genre was about and the intended experience for the player. So I reiterated, reprototyped, created several different kinds of ideas. And then I represented that to our designer, and they're like, I like this aspect. I don't like that quite aspect. I think we can grow on this. And the skill here was to grow from feedback and to take it as a gift, but also make it a strength in what you can do. That's really hard for any kind of profession, any kind of person. And also giving feedback can be very challenging too. So practicing how to be empathic and compassionate, but also effective and action-oriented in kinds of feedback can be really powerful as a skill. So I would say from that aspect, it's something that any of us can learn. And we don't have to learn it like in the most challenging ways, but we can practice it on a daily basis.
I'll go over skills that I think are like human skills and they're transferable everywhere. Maybe not everywhere, but I think a huge thing is to be a proactive problem solver. Like with any job you ever want, they're hiring you to solve a problem, not just to fill a role. So like whatever it is you want to do, think of the possible problems and have that solution, or like program yourself to be like that problem solver. I have been given the name the fixer, and I wear that with pride because I love that people go to me to solve problems. You need to be a hard worker, especially if you want to make it into any big company or basically any job that you see as like the shiny object. Like you have to be a hard worker to get it, because it's very likely that a lot of other people see that as a shiny object. Work on building relationships and putting yourself out there. Networking. These are all skills that will help you these days to get a job. Back when I graduated college, LinkedIn didn't exist. A lot of these things didn't exist. Now you network, and like I came to Activision Blizzard by a recruiter reaching out to me, having seen my LinkedIn profile. So update your LinkedIn, stay active, and create it, and like make it for the job that you want. Not everything you've done, it will show that, but make it for the job that you want, and network. Now you have us, add us on LinkedIn. Network with companies, follow companies, like for anything you want, get to know that company, get to know their products, get to like really love them and know everything about them, so that when maybe you get contacted by a recruiter, maybe you apply for a job, then they finally reach out, that you look like, or you know what you're talking about. A lot of people fake it to make it. I think like there's so much information out there, you don't even need to fake it anymore. Just like know it. It's all out there. One skill that I think everyone should do, especially if you're in college because you haven't blown any of your interviews yet, mock interview. You can't put all this time into like getting your degree, making your resume perfect, and then you finally get that interview and you just blow it. And the thing is, I'm not going to say it doesn't mean you have to blow it, but I will say if you interview today and you have 10 interviews in that month, you'll laugh at how bad you were in that first interview. You'll be like, oh my gosh. Like every time you come out of an interview, you will be a better interviewee. So I always say this to anyone that ever asks me, like, how'd you get this job? You need to mock interview. Vivian, right? Like you need a mock. Because they often say, you know, it's not the most qualified person. Sometimes it's the person who interviews the best. And that's kind of a hard truth. And it's something that a lot of quality people learn the hard way. And maybe even apply to the jobs that you don't want as much, so that when you apply that job you really, really want, you have like some quality mocks under your belt, or maybe you learn to love the other companies. But again, this isn't specific just to gaming. I really think all of these skills are very, very useful to have for anyone entering like the career world. And like we joke, we have these Asian moms that are so hard to impress. Like I am proud that I got to where I am. And I think like these skills helped get me here. So it's like, hey mom, look what I did. It's like that mock interviewing, the networking, all this work. Yeah.
So what I got out of this is Madison is the Olivia Pope of esports. Just putting that out here. So I want to point out, and this, I'm really glad that all three of you kind of shared your thoughts on skills to look at. But I wanted to point out that none of us had mentioned like a hard skill, right? So a lot of our roles do require, some roles legitimately do require a hard skill. Like you do need to know C++, you do need to know Python, you do need to know XYZ. That's not an actual coding language, by the way. But I mean, like you need to know these things. But what stands out oftentimes in our interview panels, in our conversations with our hiring teams, is that problem solving piece, like the ability to take that problem and then be able to articulate it back in a way that can help others learn from it as well. And then also demonstrate your ability to like receive and learn from the conversation. And then the last part of it is that communication skill, like really being able to communicate with one another. You kind of heard in like our own little stories of how we've communicated to our own direct managers or to our own teams about things that were coming up in our work that we may not be directly related to the actual thing that we had to complete, but we still needed to be able to communicate that. And so those are really important skills to continue developing, and it takes some time to get comfortable with it and develop it over time. I know Madison, you just joked about the Asian mom, but the Asian mom thing is real. It is such a real thing. Like my mom is a refugee immigrant from Vietnam. And so like being able to communicate with my mom really prepared me for being able to also communicate in the workforce too. And I think those are really important skills to continue developing over time. And then also building confidence in yourself too, as who you are, as an employee, as a career person. Like this is going to be part of you.
This is also a thing that people from Hawaii, like they have a head start on, because it's so diverse. Like it's so diverse in Hawaii with all of the interactions that you're doing or you're making. It's setting you up for success down the road. I hope you know that. It's not like, oh, how am I going to make it? I'm on this small island. It's like you've got a lot of things that you're not even thinking about. And also, I feel like people from Hawaii, they're just like I'm a hugger. I'm still a hugger. But I think also that came from like being from Hawaii. You make those connections naturally. I love that when people say like, you brought the sunshine, you're the sunshine. I'm like, oh, thank you. But it's something that I think most people on this call probably have, and I think you should be very proud of it and just like remember that. That's a great thing that you naturally have built in?
So I'm going to open it up now to questions from the audience, if anybody has any. But if nobody has any, then I have some remaining questions that I can ask you guys. But thank you.
Can I kick us off on one?
Sure.
Because we do this. I'm surprised this question hasn't come up yet. Like literally every time we do something, this question comes up. Your favorite game?
Call of Duty.
Okay, I'm gonna go way back. Duck Hunt.
Wow, that is way back.
Yes, Duck Hunt.
You know, for me, I'm going even further back. I'm afraid. Adventure on the Atari. I used to play that thing over and over and over. And it's such a simple game, but I remember spending whole Saturdays playing that thing. In fact, in like Ready Player One, where they show, oh my gosh, you know, it's got the first Easter egg. I freaking found the Easter egg when I was a kid. So
I love that.
Yep.
Old school. Vivian, when I was playing Duck Hunt, I would cheat. I would take like the controller like right up to the TV and be like,
Yes, I did
"Yeah,
the
I'm so
same
good at
thing.
this."
I did the same thing.
It's not cheating, it's passion.
You're right. Yeah, it's so accessible. It's just amazing. You just go do it. That's how it goes. I'd say for me, my favorite video game is Resident Evil Outbreak, which is like for various reasons that like I never liked survival horror. I was always afraid to like play online in that case. I scare easily. So there's like so many factors of why I shouldn't like such a game, but like it surprised me by playing that game that sometimes our preconceptions of like how we enter a video game are completely wrong. And that kind of like entered my space of like, yeah, I should always be open-minded when I'm trying gaming.
So we have a few questions in the chat box, but if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask the question before I
Yes,
start.
yes, thank you, Asia. I would like to ask, could you please tell me about the position in gaming industry for AI scientist?
Okay, so I think that one's for me. So I think that's going to vary depending on which department within our organization that's growing their AI teams or machine learning teams. We do have a few roles that might be posted right now. I have to double check, and then what we can do is we can pull it and share it with you. That being said, if we don't have it posted now, we probably may post it by the end of the year or in 2024, but we know that this is an emerging area and space that we want to continue to grow in. So I think it's just going to vary in different parts of our organization on where like that machine learner or artificial intelligence scientist sits in.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
All right, one question from the chat is, will you be offering remote internships during the summer and fall?
That's a great question again. And I'm so sorry that I keep saying it depends. So it really depends on the role. So most of our internships will be summer internships, and they do tend to be location based. So we have folks that come into like our Blizzard campus or to our offices in Southern California for Activision. So depending on what the internship opportunity is and what you align with, it depends on whether or not you will come into location. So for this year, 2023 summer internships, I believe a lot of our applications have already closed and finalized for 2023. So what you would want to look out for is 2024 summer internships. Additionally, Level Up U may be an opportunity where it's a little bit of a hybrid, where they do remote for a portion of their Level Up U period and then on-site flown in for another portion of their Level Up U experience. And again, that one might be something to look out for at the end of the year for 2024's cohort.
All right, everybody can continue to keep typing questions in the chat, but those were the only ones that we received so far. So I'm just going to go down the list of remaining ones I have. What do you look for in a resume when hiring someone?
That's a great question. So, again, everybody's looking at me for this one. Thank you, Adrian. So one of the pieces of advice that I share about on LinkedIn or share with folks is being really descriptive in your work or your experience in your resume. It's one thing to say, like, I have experience in C++, but we also want to see how you've applied it in your career or in your education. So what I like to use is sort of like a formulaic method of, like, you did X with Y with Z result, right? We want to be able to see that progression of how you utilize that skill, how you either implement it within your team or how you've increased or grown something. So a layer of that, like, quantitative measure, as well as like that qualitative experience described within your resume. And then the other suggestion I would make here is take a lot of that and mirror that onto your LinkedIn profile. We spend a lot of time as recruiters on LinkedIn, and when it's not super descriptive, it's a little bit hard for us to really identify and understand what your experiences was in either a tech stack or in your career to be able to know, okay, is this the right candidate for the role for this hiring manager that we're looking for? So try to mirror a lot of that into your LinkedIn profile too, if you're active on LinkedIn. The other thing is, as you're writing out your resume and putting and sharing your experiences and what you've done, also cater that to where you want to go too, right? So big industry shifts in your career, like, totally normal. I went from education into tech into gaming. And so that's a big industry shift for myself. And what I was able to do was be able to describe my work experiences in a way that's relatable and in similar nomenclature and language in the industries I was entering into. So when the recruiter was able to read my resume, they can see, okay, well, Vivian was leading recruitment teams globally for focused on recruiting for technical roles across these tech stacks. And so that was transferable and relatable enough going into other tech industries or tech companies and into the gaming industry. So try to cater it to where your progression is going to go in the industry or company you're headed towards.
One question from the chat. What makes a 3D artist stand out to recruiters? And will AI art limit, oh, sorry, I'll just read the entire thing. What makes a 3D artist stand out to recruiters? This person isn't a student, but they feel like there's a ton of great artists out there right now competing for a position. And will AI art limit these positions?
Ooh, that's a tough question. And I might need an assist from Adrian on this. I might need an assist. I mean, I can really talk about some, like, sharing your portfolio when you're applying into art roles. And what our recruiters do is they review your art portfolio to understand if your art style, one, demonstrates the technique and skills that they're looking for the particular role, and then two, if the art styles are similar to the art styles of the game, right? So Call of Duty is photorealistic. It's a very distinctive art style compared to, like, Overwatch or to Arc-like Rumble.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit of this. So I worked as a character designer as well at Activision, and I did sit down on a few of kind of our discussions related to character concept artists, so not technically 3D artists, but I'll speak on, like, as a generality. And of course, those portfolios were really key in helping understand what is the artist like, what is the preferred style, what are some opportunities for them to grow. And it is the case that occasionally there is a specific art style that a game may go for that doesn't necessarily align with, like, the preferred art style of the artist, but the portfolio can still demonstrate flexibility in interpreting different kinds of those art styles, or even the technique or process of how that artist had arrived at their final piece. So I'd say, like, demonstrating that kind of fluidity or robustness in the different kinds of styles or the process of your work can be key to helping to stand out. The second part of the question about will AI art limit these positions? I think it's really early to kind of, like, openly adopt all this is from a personal stance, to openly adopt the aspects of AI art, because there are all sorts of questions about like, is the sourcing of these art ethical? Is there kind of a question on, is there plagiarism as a result of kind of the source data that's used for these things? So overall, I think it's too early to kind of understand exactly that kind of impact. But I do see the concern. I think though that in general, the rapidness and the iteration and the collaborations that we do in the gaming industry are all about iterations and prototypes, and that kind of like collaboration between people as they're discussing kind of work or feedback is something that is benefited through human understanding of the work and the relationships and the potential opportunities that are out there. I'm not saying that we can't be replaced by machines all the time, but I am saying that as it stands right now, the opportunities for collaboration in a human to human sense greatly overweigh the possibilities of hypotheticals with AI art.
All right, last question from my remaining ones, but if anybody wants to jump in real quick and unmute, I'll just pause for a moment.
I mean, we could also talk about how our Asian moms keep asking us about Candy Crush credits. I mean, I don't know if it's just me. Yeah.
That is exactly it. My mom was like, why are you designing these so difficult? I'm like, look, I'm not the one necessarily, but aren't you enjoying the challenge? Is the second question I follow up with.
I love that.
So, all right. I guess the last question will be, what do you all see for the future of Activision Blizzard?
That's a tough one. There's a lot in the news about us right now. So from a talent perspective, I see that we'll continue to evolve as an employer of choice and as an organization that really truly represents our player base, and welcomes a lot of folks into our organization over time. And so that's my hope for the future of Activision Blizzard. Part of the reason why I really wanted to be a part of this conversation with the University of Hawaii Manoa, because I personally am invested in allowing folks to see opportunities within ABK or within the tech industry or the gaming industry that you may not have been able to see or be accessible to you in Hawaii, right? Like Madison and I's stories coming from high school days in Hawaii and then moving to the mainland at some point in time, or finding opportunities for ourselves within our industries and our careers of choice. Like there are pathways for that, sometimes slightly longer than we expected, but there are opportunities and pathways for you. And that's my hope. And then also do a shameless plug into the chat with all of our career sites for you too.
All right. Thank you so much. I have some fun rapid fire questions if you guys want to answer those. All right, so mobile or PC?
Console.
Console.
I mean, it's all of the above, but if I were to pick one, it would definitely be PC right now.
Console, but can I be like really specific here? Can I go with like the Nintendo trackpad? Mostly because Adrian's talking about how he cheated with Duck Hunt. I also cheated with the Nintendo trackpad with like the running game. When you have to do the hurdle jump, I ran and then jumped off the pad, right, for the hurdle jump before jumping back onto the pad. So I'm gonna be super specific there.
Single player or multiplayer?
Multi.
Multi.
Yeah, I would have to say, since I've come back to to World of Warcraft, it has to be multi.
I'm gonna have to be the detractor here and say single, because when I play multiplayer, I apparently get really, really loud and then I get kicked out of the game. So I'm just gonna go with single.
Relatable.
Oh, sorry. One person asked, do you offer remote full-time job opportunities?
You know, that's a really good question. Again, I think that also varies on the team and the department and the studios. A lot of our teams have returned to office and gone back into our studios. I went to our Pen Factory office in Santa Monica on Tuesday. And so we have a really great opportunity to be in person, working amongst one another. I loved being in the office and seeing everybody connecting, and folks doing like drive-by conversations with me as I'm like huddled in a booth. So the remote full-time opportunities will vary over time. And if it is listed as remote on our website, you'll be able to see it there.
All right, well, that brings us to the close of our program. Thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciated all of you answering my questions and for the time you spent here with us. And so to kind of summarize for everyone, all of you had different paths to your current positions. And this is very inspiring to anyone listening who might want to pursue a career in the gaming industry. And we could hear your excitement and enthusiasm, which is very encouraging. It's also very helpful to know that there are a lot of opportunities and that the gaming industry is continuously growing. It's great to hear that Activision Blizzard is so inclusive, supportive, and that you all enjoy your work and the people that you work with. So thank you. And Jill Nakatsu, Director of Academic Affairs for the College of Engineering, is joining us and would like to say a few words on behalf of the college.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I am also a mom, so I am home and I had to move to the other room because my daughter is making noise outside. So on behalf of the College of Engineering, I want to say thank you to Sky, UH Esports, PACE, for working with us or inviting us to be a part of this, to connect the Activision Blizzard speakers with our students. Thank you so much to all of the speakers for spending the time with us this evening. It was so great to hear your inspiring personal stories and learn about all the opportunities that even kids from Hawaii can jump on, right? And it was really, really, really great to hear your invaluable advice, on how to prepare themselves to apply and hopefully join you guys maybe in the future, right? I have a question as an Asian mom.
Wait, I don't know. I don't know if either one of us is qualified to answer some of these questions.
Nah, it was just can I get some Overwatch League tokens?
Hey, you know, we're having a hard time giving up Candy Crush credits to our own Asian moms.
I know.
So that might be a little tough one there.
Yeah, I had to ask because Asian moms, right? Got to ask for the extra credits and stuff. Okay, thank you guys so much, though.
Thank you, Madison, Adrian, Ichi, and Vivian for connecting to our UH community. And thank you to everyone who joined us online and to PACE, the College of Engineering, and UH Esports for making this event possible. We'll now be ending the Zoom session.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.